Today we are driving the very much anticipated Volvo EX60. Is it a real electric XC60? And how does it compare to its main rivals? For example, the BMW iX3, the Mercedes GLC EQ or the Audi Q6 e-tron. Today with the first consumption real-world range test here, where we can test it for you on Spanish motorways. And we're also going to dig deep into exterior, interior, comfort, and of course the whole technology. Everything you need to know about the Volvo EX60 here with Thomas Nautical Fuel in 4K, full screen, full length. Let's go with our Forest Lake color, and I really have been digging deep into my wardrobe to find the Forest Lake something. I think it fits quite well, definitely. And yeah, very interesting color. Of course, there are more colors available, also bright ones and so on. Then we have this Thor's hammer style daytime running light. The main headlamp unit is underneath. And there we have either already matrix LED or the so-called pixel LED, which even gives you more functionality. And I think a rather traditional Volvo look. They don't want to have a more screaming outlook here, and that's totally fine. And also from the exterior at least says, yeah, that could just be an electric XC60. The length is 4.80 meters, 189 inches, and wheels from 20 to 22 inch, and these are the 22-inch wheels, the biggest ones that are available. Interesting to know is that the 20-inch wheels are the smaller ones, like from the width. And when you go then to the 21 or the 22, they both have the wider width of 255 in the front and 265 in the rear. So consumption-wise, definitely makes a difference if you stick with the 20-inch. However, the higher trim levels, which most probably will go for, is automatically combining then here the larger wheels, at least the 21, and then you're already at the same width than the 22. Suspension-wise, you start with the standard suspension, which already gets frequency selective dampening, so that it's not like really an active adaptive suspension, but passively adaptive. But this one here optionally is equipped with the adaptive suspension, so we're going to test that one for you today. And optional, you can get the cross-country. Like the delivery times are definitely later for that one, but the cross-country will offer air suspension, but only for the cross-country model. Then here in the rear you have also somewhat typical Volvo, taking the citation from the past SUV models, but then a little bit more modern interpretation of the light signature. And this one in here says EX60 P10 AWD Ultra. So what does that mean? There is the P6, which would be the entry-level battery, and with rear-wheel drive you get 80 kilowatt hours net in the battery figure. Then this one here, the P10, is 92 kilowatt hours battery net capacity, always talking the net values here. This one then all-wheel drive, one the motor in the rear, one in the front. 4.6 seconds in the acceleration figure. And if you want an even bigger battery and also sub 4 seconds in the acceleration figure, then there is the P12, which is at 112 kilowatt hours net. That's even then a little bit larger than the BMW iX3. However, here the P10 rather in the range of the battery size of a Mercedes GLC EQ. There again, the delivery times for the largest battery are a little bit longer at this moment when we are filming the video. So far most customers have been opting for the P10 to don't have to wait so long for the vehicle. In charging, I really like this manual charging flap, which is really large, also protects a little bit against rain, and you can have the cable from both sides. AC, 11 or 22 kilowatt charging is already included, 22 in the mid trim, like from the plus trim, so that's also included here. And then the DC in the all-wheel drive models up to 370 kilowatt DC peak. And then we have 16 minutes, 10 to 80% state of charge with this 800 volt architecture. That's pretty cool here for the P10 as well. It would be 19 minutes then for the largest battery, like this 112 kilowatt hour battery. So very quick in charging, definitely. And so far, this is of course the all-new vehicle. Maybe if you watch that video at a later stage, there will be the first used vehicles of an EX60, or maybe if you think still maybe like a plug-in of the XC60. Like always, when you go for a used vehicle, then be sure to use our partner at carVertical first, that you can check the vehicle history of a used car before. Here, for example, we have a Volvo XC60, which had some damages, and you know then before what you buy, because you can check the damage report. You can often check then how high this damage was, what was paid for the vehicle, and even you can check for some, mileage intervention. Sometimes you can confirm, that's all right, in the graph there. Sometimes you see that maybe like there's something, a wrong mileage appearing. Almost comparable to what a dealer would know about the concise vehicle, but you know it then as a customer, so you can use the code Autogefühl to get a 20% discount. And in the video description or in the pinned comment, you can also find the link to our carVertical partnership. So you've maybe read the news that in 2025, Volvo even had a net loss, and they also lost some market share, not too many sales. Transition to electric mobility is, definitely a tough thing. There we go. Talking about the door handles very soon. Now they're open. This is an own topic very soon. I can promise. So, yeah, on the one hand, net loss, less sales, and so on. Of course, struggling also with the US tariffs. Then, of course, the Chinese business is a little bit tougher on all the manufacturers except the Chinese ones. Yeah, but at the same time, this one here is super successful, so they can't even keep up with the demand of the EX60. So the question then is if the EX60 can really get Volvo out of this situation. And there we go. Yeah, this always, because here the Volvo logo always points to where you can open then the frunk or the engine and so on. In this case then the frunk. Very important here, the yellow line marks the maximum loading height for this frunk. And yeah, this can house something more than a cable, but not exactly a suitcase or something. Yeah, so this will be super interesting how this one will drive, especially in also our first consumption test here today. And yeah, indeed a car that can really, turn things around for Volvo again, considering, how much people like it at this moment already. And these compares I've been talking about, iX3, GLC EQ, Audi Q6 e-tron, everyone is focusing on these vehicles here at the moment because this is a segment which is highly popular among the SUV and electric, and combined the electric SUV segment, because they're not too large, they're not too small, they have already the big batteries, deliver good range and so on. So these are really vehicles in that premium segment where people say, hey, I switch from a combustion engine to an electric vehicle and stay there. And now it's, I already switched clothing because of the interior. The interior is a little bit brighter than the exterior, that's one of my hobbies. So now it's time to talk about the door handles, because obviously here there's nothing. Designers love it because then this area here is super clean. But the question is always, I'm a fan of the design principle of form follows function. And the meaning of that is that the function is always more important than the form, because the form follows the function. Yeah, it's about design history class. And here the thing is, we have this small fin here. And in contrast to flush door handles, which disappear and come out again, at least these here are always out. That's the good part of it. But then there's like a button behind, and you can press it. You can also hear that. And then you maybe hear the button press, and then you hear the unlock mechanism. And Volvo says that underneath here, what you cannot see, this has like a form of like this almost. So it's really like a massive piece underneath, so that firefighters could actually also really move that part without it getting ripped off. Then again, my question is, firefighters with large gloves, do they want to use the tip of their fingers? And then I don't think so. So a classic door handles will always be better to use and will always be safer. Ask your local firefighter about this. However, Volvo has ensured that even in case of a crash where there's maybe electric lost something, there's like a dual safety mechanism behind it, that it's always supposed to be unlocked automatically, and it still works. That's what Volvo says. And I also believe them, of course, but still I think that classic door handle approach is better somehow. And what I also found out is, we have the frameless windows here, which are pretty cool. And also here in the ultra trim, the top trim, we have the lamination. So this is then better soundproof and is even here for the rear window. So that's actually pretty cool. Not all cars in that segment have that. Does anyone have that on both front and rear? The iX3 doesn't have it at all. The GLC, I think, has it in the front the Audi Q6. I gotta recheck that actually. Here, another thing is like when you pull down the windows completely, it goes like this. But then when you close the door, it goes down fully. And then when you open the door, when the window is down, which might happen at some time as well, then you press it and then you know, for example, it's stuck. There we go. And then here the window goes up a little bit. And now it's stuck in the middle position. Yeah, there we go. And then you see, you know, just when you try around things, you know, and I wouldn't say that when we test cars that these situations are so unusual. There are situations where the windows are down and then you open the car again and then you have to be like, you have to put your fingers away quite quickly, you know. So just to show you a different situation where that might come a little bit unhandy. And I think some of you said in the studio episode, like, who has asked for this? No one, of course. And now it gets even worse. Soon we will reveal to you, and yeah, maybe it's already revealed if you watch this video at a later stage, but another big competitor of Volvo will go for the same solution. This virus is spreading. I can already tell you so far, but I'm not allowed to tell you which car it is. But yeah, stay subscribed, always an Autogrill, then you'll soon know. Yeah, so now I presented all the pros and cons about this solution. As I said, designers love it. Users might not. Yeah, it's not too complicated, I have to say, but I would have wished for something else. But then here, the inside of the doors. This is all the way very soft, clean design. Here also with some perforation. Then you have 4 window levers. And this is actually, then I think this is for this function. This is an electric unlock, yes. But then the manual unlock is also in the same position. That's how it's done, you know. Pretty slim door pockets, but they are covered. So this is not hard black plastic. This is here even soft, dampened underneath. So that's very, very cool. The only hard part is then this lower here. And you can also go for a darker interior if you like. But the bright one is really cool to look at. Dual tone also for the steering wheel. This is also an animal-free material, feels nice. It's a super small steering wheel for such a car in that size. Then real buttons at the steering wheel, here for the cruise control left side. This is a small favorite button where you can deactivate the EU speed chime law, for example, easily. Right side for the volume and for music next and back. Also important to know because the GLC EQ does not have that. You cannot skip a music title on the steering wheel in the GLC EQ. It's not possible. They didn't think of that somehow. And I also love the Scandinavian approach of having the matte wood here also in the front part. That looks cool, some fabric hues. And the instruments, they move further away. This is also interesting if we compare these competitors, where we have the GLC EQ, which has all the screens in one layer. Then we have the iX3, which puts this infotainment closer to you and the panoramic vision very much away. And this is kind of in between. So they also say, hey, we don't need head-up display because the instruments are so rather long focus already. Very interesting. Then the seats. So this is the so-called Nordico perforation, also with cooling. It's a high-grade leatherette. From the softness, I have to say, on the seat itself here, the iX3 is softer. But here, for example, in the head restraint, this is then way softer, but I think they want to make this one softer for your head, and then maybe here a little bit firmer, maybe for durability reasons or so on. But in the comfort, I mean, all of these competitors are comfortable in the seating position, and the base ergonomics is also good. Here again, I feel that the iX3 has the upper hand because the base ergonomics of the seat is the best, and also the softness of the leatherette is actually the best. And
the fabric was more softer.
Yes, indeed. Good point with Leah. The cross-country version offers a blue fabric seat that is even a little bit more comfortable, I feel. So yeah, maybe also look out to that. But yeah, I mean, it's still on a good level, just comparing the different competitors. And the Mercedes, we will soon do like another long-haul road trip episode with the Mercedes GLC EQ. Also do direct head-to-head comparisons, GLC EQ versus the iX3. And then we also test the seats of the Mercedes again. If maybe they're a little bit better than these ones or comparable, we'll see about that. And also if you want us to do a head-to-head comparison with this one here, with the Volvo EX60, tell us in the comments which one would you rather be looking out for to like Volvo EX60 versus iX3 versus GLC EQ, the Audi Q6, like which would be like the main head-to-head figure? Tell me in the comments. And then you start searching, how can I control the steering wheel? And there they go, this Tesla approach that you select it in the infotainment system, and then you move it here with the with the volume and music title approach. And then of course it's saved then to your user account. I'm more a fan of classic solutions than here, maybe even a manual control, but at least you can save it to your user account, and then it should also always be in that case. And yeah, I almost feel like I'm in a computer game because the steering is so small. Actually, it's pretty funny. This is the app, by the way. So this works also as a key fob, and you can also use the preconditioning and so on, that you have a first impression of how it looks like. And now there are many interesting aspects about this cockpit. First of all, this one always gets a glass roof. An option, you can get the electro shade here. So it's like PDLC technology, either closed or see-through. That doesn't change the heat that's coming in. That is always inbuilt in that glass roof, but as I always say, no matter what they tell you, a glass roof will always make the car hotter instead of if you could go with a fixed roof. Some cars like the iX3 offer the option, either go fixed roof or glass roof. Other manufacturers like Volvo or also like Mercedes say you always get the glass roof, and then you switch to the option of, hey, you want to have this digital shade or not. Yeah, about that. Headroom here, by the way, is no problem. So there's plenty of space with one A9 And by the way, also here, this sun visor is extendable. That's also a nice option to like cover this area here. This sometimes might that be a very good idea. Also, not only on the outside, but also on the inside here, the mirrors are frameless. That's always a classy option. Looks cool, and that's actually also formed for those function. And they have this clean Scandinavian design with the living room fabric atmosphere here, for example. Then the matte wood, which is the my most favorite part on this one. Here the Bowers & Wilkins system, 28 speakers. The Bose has 21 speakers, and Leah and I have been testing the sound system already, and it's a really great system. And you actually have different sound settings as well. And for example here 3D surround, but too intense is too much. I would just leave it in the standard setting, and it has a really good like surround sound overall. It even works better than, of course, with Dolby Atmos, but you always need the source for that. So this one is among our top list of these sound systems. At this moment, there's just one that comes above that, and that is the Burmester system in the Porsche or in the Mercedes. The Mercedes GLC EQ has that, for example. We have a CLA at this moment at home as well, where we test the Burmester system, and that it's like goosebumps all over the place. And it would say like this one then comes directly behind it. So this is like our current sound evaluation. Maybe you have not noticed yet, or did you? Tell me in the comments. Here, the screen is a little bit curved, but usually manufacturers do it like this. But this one is curved like this. So this is further away, this is further away, and the middle one is the highest part, let's say it that way. And the reason is that when I hear from the passenger side, change the temperature, for example, and from the driver's side, then you can like easier see and access this, so to speak. And what's also interesting here, this is like the climate menu. Yes, these vents are also digital now. There's another dis-ease in the automotive industry. I think not really necessary to make them digital. I feel at least that way. Cool is that we have here, mentioned earlier, the seat ventilation that also works together with the seat cooling and steering wheel heating, so it also works simultaneously if you want it in wintertime. And this really blows quite a lot, and is also needed then for hot summer temperatures and so on. And this at least is now in the first stage, so I don't have to click something first and then, but here I can directly access the climate unit. I would prefer physical, but here at least the volume jog here is physical, and also here again next music title and so on. And this whole area is also beautifully done with the matte wood. We also have here this Android backend, you know, Google based, and there, for example, with the adaptive suspension here, adjust the suspension in firm or soft or standard. Also can change one pedal driving to low, high recuperation or auto, like a cruise control, and if you want to have it creeping forward or not. So you can all adjust that. Standard or performance acceleration. So these are the most important controls right there. And there's also the Google Maps inbuilt GPS. So most of the things then you need are already right here. They will also offer Apple CarPlay or Android Auto. It's not in this beta version here yet, but they will offer that. They also claim that the Gemini integration is working very well. I will not say, hey, famous search engine now, because it will trigger some of your phones when you're using Android, but I will use the button here on the steering wheel and
search for good vegan places in Barcelona.
Oh, that's a good idea. Like that. Tell me about some nice vegan restaurants in Barcelona. Let's see about that. There's not too much signal here though. Just a moment. It is just a little, yeah, so it's not that quick because...
Barcelona has a fantastic vegan scene. Here are a few top-rated spots for something special. Raso Terra in the Gothic Quarter offers an incredible plant-based fine dining experience. If you're looking for a casual vibe with great views, Blue Bar in Poblenou is popular for its vegan pizzas and sandwiches right near...
Yeah, we'll listen to that later on. I don't want to bore you with that now. But that's actually pretty cool. So a good natural integration. And they also think about it like you're on the road and pass something. Oh, what is that bridge? How is it maybe... what it's called or something, and this will also work. So this is a very good integration, and it once again shows that so many manufacturers try to do that themselves and they always fail. And you know, the big tech companies, they just can't do it, you know. And then Volvo from the beginning on said, hey, let's just take Google on board, and that's it. And it works very well. And also the charging stop recalculation and so on will be done here in the car inbuilt GPS, of course. Yeah, that's very interesting. And I told you earlier, the instruments are also very well to see. They are more on the front there. And then indeed, you don't necessarily need the head-up display then, because it's, you know, far enough away. And then you also have the map integration here in the instruments that works too. And here, by the way, park and then reverse and drive. So that's the way you put it in. If Leah closes the door on the passenger side, we can also see the last black area there. So it's actually, yeah, quite nice from resolution, 360 degrees. These donuts were not done by us, by the way, just to mention that. So yeah, so overall, I think like the whole orientation here makes sense. But they do use a lot of unique features indeed, and more are coming up here in the middle console, because first of all, here this lower part, this is like a felt use. Not sure how this one will look over time. I hope it will hold up well. And by the way, here on the outside, it's not that you see it in the wrong way. It is kind of like with these purple elements on the inside. Not sure if you can see that on camera. And then we have this middle console. You cannot fold it up, but you can press it in here. Then it comes forward. Then you can put some bottles in here. These are these rubber lips. And if you don't want to have that, want to get rid of it, then you can also put them in again and then have like this open space. And then you can pull it backwards again and open it once again like this. Yeah, also interesting solution. And there is no glove box here on the right side. It's softly dampened here, but no glove box, but you have it in the middle. And here on top part, there's one inductive charging pin in this black hole here, also ventilated, and right next to it you can just put your phone. And this is basically in the middle glove box, and yeah, small cubby hole right there, more space underneath. And then they thought about the following here. So, oh, Leah found some not sure you can see it, some spiders here in the cabin. They are also watching our car review. So yeah, interesting. Yeah, I'm not sure if you can see it on camera, but yeah, maybe you want to accompany the small spider outside. Yeah. Or shall I do it? Maybe.
1 second here.
So Spidey.
Spidey.
So now that we slowly accompanied Spidey outside, I can plug in here. 18 watt, 60 watt, so 60 watt on the right side. And then I thought of this solution. I can put the cable right in here, close this middle glove box again, and then I can plug it in right there and then put the smartphone there. And I mean, to be even cleaner, I could maybe do it like this. Even like take the top part. So yeah, like this. So then now I have like a very clean solution, but I still have the cable connected because 60 watt is of course stronger than the inductive charging pad and also doesn't overheat that quickly. Yeah, why not? Interesting solutions here, definitely also for the middle glove box. Really, looking forward to your feedback on these. Here, by the way, you can see in all doors, all four, This is also like the integrated handle from the inside, but it's a little bit, maybe not in the, yeah, it's in the right position when you really reach out far, you know, the closer you get, the wronger the position is, so to speak. But yeah, you get along with that, definitely. And yeah, pretty cool that we have the lamination also in the rear windows. And what will be super crucial when we start driving the vehicle, Volvo not only uses this passive noise cancellation, but also rear active noise cancellation. We know that from some vehicles. In the recent Mercedes Maybach S-Class facelift, they took this feature away because they said we rather focus on passive dampening again. The Ford Kuga is even using that, and Volvo has been using that here now in the EX90, also in the ES90, the sedan, and here also in the EX60. And there's always the discussion between, does it sound unnatural when you use active noise cancelling? Because to me, when you use the in-ear phones or like the iPods or something like that, I think it's cool, especially when you are in the plane and so on. But in cars, I sometimes wonder when you're like in an area, I sometimes have the feeling with active noise cancellation that's almost like a vacuum next to your ear. And on the one hand, it's super silent. On the other hand, it might feel unnatural. So I'm looking forward to how it behaves with this car here now today. So I'm skeptic, yes, as usual with many things. That's my job. But we'll tell you more about it when we drive it very soon and then also rate it. Then here in the rear, well, there's enough space to the roof, and yeah, you feel how hot the roof is getting. So even if they have this shield inside, it's always hotter then. And then space here to the seat in the front is fine, enough space. And this is, by the way, here also like everything is like a soft padding. So it's also nice that nothing is really hard. Position here, you can see there's the battery underneath. You see that, you know, in the XC60 my feet would be lower, but since this one here is an SUV, it's not as bad as in the sedan. Like in the ES90, it's like this, you know, because the feet are even higher. But here I think it's fine. In the middle console you have USB-C charging. Once again, 18 watt left, 60 watt on the right. You have this thing you can put out maybe for cleaning or so. In the top part, you also have seat heating for the rear seats in the Ultra trim here. It's like a package, I think, even in the Ultra trim. And then we can fold down this here. It's like a extended middle console with rubber lips here as well. It's actually pretty nice, and it goes even more luxurious than this. First of all, these ones you can fold up. They also may go down, and this is like the softest area here, so it's really nice and comfortable if you really put your head back there. It's pretty cool. And they also go down then when you fold the seats. I can show it to you here as well. So yeah, then they automatically go down. And you also have, and this really luxury feature, electric control here of the back part. So there we go. You can move it back, or you can also move it forward. This is more like a maybe cargo position or something like that for the rear, for the trunk. Up to like this, and then you can also see the difference. And the same goes also with the other side. So it's like a 2/3, 1/3 split then in that respect. Child seats, ISOFIX here on the side, and you also have this premium covering. You can put it up and then you can install them right there. Were there actually ISOFIX on the front seat? No, doesn't look like that. No, so that's then here on the outer rear seats. But overall, yeah, I think also well usable here in the rear. Trunk or boot at 520 liters, and there are some surprises there. Let's dig deeper into that, literally, because here you have this split here that you can access the lower part, and here, for example, we have this bag. This could be a charging cable in there or not, and you can of course lift it out. And on the other side here, you have this one. This is also interesting, like maybe for the beach, you can put some wet clothes in there, or whatever. And of course you can use it. Is it maybe even fitting a suitcase? I'm not sure. I mean, we had to find out, right? So that's what we do. And of course you can, if you hold this for a second, thank you. So you can also put it like this, that it stays there. And almost. I mean, if you push it down a little bit. So that's interesting. Why not? So yeah, pretty cool finding. Then you have seen that it also fits here underneath, no problem. With this cover then here, you put it like manual like this here with the side rails. And then you have it this, but you cannot like lift it out, you know, you can lift it, the whole thing up. Then you have some space here, but you cannot like remove it entirely. It's like fixed here. And then we can fold the seats. The good thing is that we have a remote unfold. So here, right and left. There we go. Obviously wants to be held a little bit longer. There we go. And then also it takes some time to fold down finally then. So there we go. And I think then it needs maybe like a last push right there. Yeah, so these buttons here don't seem to be that reactive. Maybe because when we test the vehicles, they are very early production ones. So let's see if that one improves over time. And then here we have 1.40 m in width to the second seating row. We have also 1.40 m. And then we have about 28 inches, 70 centimeters in the height right here. And the total length we are at, it's like 73 inches or 1.85 meters. So yeah, quite happy with the trunk. Are you as well? And pricing is actually very interesting. 66,000 euros. Here the mid-trim level battery, like which is already, you know, not really small, the 92 kilowatt hours. And then at 72,000 euros, the biggest battery. And then you can maybe add some 5, 6, 7,000 euros on options, so that you're roughly between 60 and 80,000 euros. And that is indeed a little bit lower than the competition models if you look at the comparable specs and so on. And the leasing prices, I checked them before, are also a little bit lower than the BMW iX3 and the Mercedes GLC EQ in many cases. So it's very interesting indeed. Why can they do that? They belong to the Geely Corporation, a large Chinese manufacturer that, you know, years ago bought Volvo, also owns Polestar, Zeekr, Lynk & Co, the Geely brand itself, for example, and Lotus as well. They are more like this Chinese Volkswagen group. You know, BMW has Skoda, Audi, Seat, Cupra, VW, blah, blah, blah. And now it's time to drive. Now we start driving the Volvo EX60 and we have found this B or even C road, which is kind of bumpy and really narrow and so on. We want to see how it performs there also suspension-wise. At the moment, I've set the suspension to soft and we do have the 22-inch wheels. So the, let's say, the most uncomfortable wheel combination there would be for driving this vehicle. And considering it has the 22-inch wheels and
no air suspension.
And no air suspension. This one only the actively adaptive suspension, but that one is doing a very good job. I would also say less rough than the BMW iX3. Of course, the Mercedes GLC EQ has the air suspension, so there we would need to compare the GLC EQ when it has then the air suspension against the Volvo EX60 Cross Country. But the GLC EQ is of course also available without the air suspension, so that one would be the direct comparison to this one then here. But I think here are even some roots in the ground. Oh, this one, have you heard that? This area sometimes doing a rattling effect. I think with when yeah, maybe, I don't know, maybe when there are like temperature changes. Pothole now, but this is actually really nice. Yeah. So here then intentionally put it to the softer setting. It's getting quite hot in here. Then I can also, for example, boost up the seat cooling. Level 3 is quite loud actually. Yeah, maybe we have to, yeah, sometimes it's a little bit complicated to do that while driving. So this might end up in being you have to use the auto function.
And then it's back to the
yeah, the icon, yeah. That's also a nice shortcut, yeah, definitely for that. Then we can also accelerate out a little bit. So we can, for example, set the performance acceleration and put the suspension to a little bit firmer when we do some sporty driving. Let's see about that. The first one I get onto the road actually just for safety purposes. So it's too dangerous to do that actually from the cornering. So now we can do some acceleration. Let's go from a rolling start. That was 20 to 90. Oh, that even triggered the Lear meter. So yeah, this one here, 4.6 seconds in the acceleration figure, 0 to 100. Definitely more than enough. This 3.9 you get in the P12. Yeah, it's not really needed. So this is yeah, definitely more than fast enough. here now, suspension firm. I wouldn't say that it's now like suddenly a super sports car or something. You do feel it's a little bit firmer. Maybe not the biggest difference. What's your impression in here, also in the corners?
Yeah.
Passenger, yeah, so it's okay.
Feel good, yeah.
So there's always a good factor if Leah is maybe getting sick in some like heavy electric vehicles, but here it's obviously not the case, although we're doing the cornering. So although the suspension is giving us good comfort, we have still a sporty setup in the way of that it's fun to drive. Steering is super small, as I said. It's more like computer game alike. You can also... Why is the steering control not in this menu?
I don't know. That's weird, right?
Listen,
Steering assists? Here it is.
there it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe because people don't change it that often or
Yeah.
something, that could be the solution. So here you can also set it to firmer. Then you have a little bit more feedback from the steering. And I would prefer that setting because otherwise I feel it's actually pretty soft. Yeah, and I definitely prefer this firmer setting of the steering. But yeah, that's again the thing. You should only set these things once because it's always distracting to look at the screen and while driving. So yeah, very, very careful with that, definitely. But I mean, here the suspension setting is even in the firm setting is fine, but you can, if it's soft, or you can also leave it on standard. And we already hear that, soon going to the motorway and so on, but
Yeah, nothing,
already
yeah.
here, it's super, super silent. And that is the combination of laminated windows plus the active noise cancellation. And I'm not 100% sure. There are some situations where you just see like, wow, I really enjoy this super silent atmosphere. And sometimes then you have this effect of, oh, there's like a vacuum
Earplug
against
or
my...
something in
Yeah, or
there.
something, or you have an earplug in, or maybe sometimes when you have a cold, you know, and then like this wave from your ears to your mouth is a little bit, you know, closed or clogged, so to speak, then you get sometimes this feeling. And maybe it also has to do with your inner ear pressure. It's really strange because we drove the same way like 2 hours ago to our review location or something, and then I felt it more. Now we're going back this way, and at this moment I feel a little bit
Maybe
less.
you're getting used to it? I don't know.
Maybe, I don't know. So I have no idea. Maybe it also depends on the situation, or maybe you.
Maybe there is someone with a Volvo.
Good
And
question.
can,
Yeah. Or maybe it's about your blood pressure or something. I don't know. Yeah, it's very interesting. What I can say, however, is that you can definitely not shut this down. It's not possible to cancel this in any way. So you're definitely stuck with it, and it's also connected even with the Bose system. So, and even the base one, like if there will be like a core model at some point, it will also have that. By the way, let's just turn around here and see about that. Reverse. It's not too hard actually. Then of course the light steering helps. Wheels could turn in a little bit more, I have to say. I'm not sure if with the rear-wheel drive version, then the front wheels can maybe turn in a little bit more. That might be possible. But it's very easy to ease this car around. And so it's a relaxing atmosphere, definitely defined by this super, super silent ride with this connection of passive and active noise cancelling. So at this moment, I'm actually fine with it, but I also had situations where I said like, maybe feels a little bit unnatural. So maybe I have to drive this car a little bit longer to find out more about that, and also how it behaves then soon on the motorway. Here we can do some more agile driving for you, definitely. Ah, yeah, this is like the...
Was it up?
It was actually off.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
What's this beeping? Yeah.
This is like when like a new speed sign is being recognized.
Okay.
But I guess this can be also be deactivated in the menu,
I
and
think
this
so too, yeah.
this should be last mode as well. You know, transverse bump. It's actually nice.
Yeah,
So
pretty good, yeah.
very happy with the suspension and also how the car is behaving in the driving here. So a good compromise between comfort and sportiness here. Once again, this B or C road, also smooth as for the power delivery when you accelerate out of the corners, and it is very easy to handle here with that small steering wheel. It's also something you can get used to. I would have the firm steering feedback setting, but maybe Leah also
I'm not,
prefers.
maybe,
Yeah.
yeah.
When it's a little bit softer here, a little bit tight in the corners, super ease in the handling, and that's also a big difference to the Volvo EX90. That this one here feels so much lighter and more agile. Nice vignette here. And also, if you ask me about Volvo EX60, like the standard combustion engine model, this one here is yeah, so much better in driving, so much better. So there's, yeah, this one is really fun to drive. The EX60 is a great car, definitely, but it's meanwhile a dated platform, and this one feels really more refined in driving. I say, although it's heavier with the battery and so on. The BMW BMW iX3 was switching between German
Also
and
cool
English.
name.
iX3, yeah, that would be cool, German English name. The iX3 is, let's say, even more a driver's car, stiffer from suspension. We haven't driven the adaptive suspension there yet because only the base one is available. That is, let's say, a little bit more engaging, even more in the drive. The GLC EQ, as I said, with the air suspension is more floaty, but also drives very, very well. And the Audi Q6 e-tron, I mean, this is a system also of a Porsche Macan, and at least what we discussed is that in the Q6 e-tron and in the Porsche Macan, we more had the effect that Leah got sick on the passenger seat. Just, I don't know, maybe from the platform and the chassis. We had the same from the related platform with the Porsche Cayenne recently as well. So there I see the other platforms from the other manufacturers a little bit ahead in that respect. Because especially when you have these electric vehicles that accelerate pretty nicely, it's always also about how does it feel for the passenger. And yeah, once again, it drives extremely well, very happy with the drive, silent, relaxed, but at the same time, also sportier than expected. So to me, together with the new small electric one, the EX30, the very, very tiny one, very nice and sporty driving feeling.
Yep, thumbs up.
Thumbs up, definitely in driving. But now, of course,
I'm happy.
we're not done yet. Motorway is coming up, and on the Motorway, of course, we'll do a first consumption test. And now it's time for the Motorway here in Spain today. So we're starting at 100 kilometers an hour, 60 miles an hour, and yeah, it's again super silent because of this combination lamination windows and the active noise cancelling. And really gonna say that at lower speeds, it's to me more unpleasant, the active noise cancelling. The higher you draw, like the higher the speed is, so that's what I want to say. Like the higher the speed is, the more natural it feels, basically, because of like the normal wind noise is still picking up on the outside a little bit. But here, 100 kilometers an hour, 60 miles an hour, it's a very good traveling speed, and it's actually so silent, so relaxed that Leah just closes her eyes and starts sleeping. That's something, right? That's really something.
That's black smoke there.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's old Nissan. What is it, like Nissan Pathfinder?
Get our TÜV in Germany.
Whoa. No, the TÜV in Germany would say no. Yeah, so super silent experience here, definitely on the Motorway. And the adaptive suspension again is doing a good job. And one of the very rare cars where 22-inch wheels would be okay. So that's very astonishing. And as I said earlier, to me the interesting thing was also that this was more comfortable than expected, and at the same time it also drives in a way sportier than I would have expected. So that really speaks for the vehicle, and here I was doing also a good job on the Motorway. I can also change through the modes a little bit like this. At the moment we're still with suspension soft. Not sure how it would behave in here when I go to firm. It's still definitely drivable. It's not that it would become uncomfortable now. If there's maybe like a very fast motorway situation, that could make sense in a way. Here at the moment, like the asphalt is very well done, very nicely built. There's not much stuff on the road or some potholes or something like that. So here maybe firm is even good for the passenger, but that could work. Yeah, but you don't feel the biggest difference. Here now, let's do like a lane change here as well at 1 kilometers an hour. Very calm, doesn't shake much to the left or the right. So really good setup as for that. Lane keeping assist can be a little too heavy in intervening from time to time. Let's say that. But you can also deactivate it quite quickly with these. Oh, That was like another.
Wood is some-
Not sure if it's the wood itself or like the carrier underneath, but some things are sometimes rattling when you are going over some bumps. That's the thing. Then we can also set the cruise control here, left side, and so now it should also keep us in the lane actively. Let's see how it does it, and if it's doing it in a smooth way or hectic way. So here, just to show you that I'm not steering, and yeah, there are some corrections left and right. It's always a good indicator then if Leah really feels that I'm not. Oh, there's a great lighting here in the tunnel, also through the panoramic roof. That's cool. So would you say that's smooth to you? Now it's doing a little bit left, right. I would say it's fine, but
Yeah,
it's
but
maybe
it's
not on
the
the
best,
highest
yeah.
level. Yeah.
iX3 is still a little bit better, yeah.
Ah.
Macht er jetzt doch, ne?
And here, when I put in the turning indicator, it also does a semi-automated lane change here. One more time.
It's smooth, yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, that's nicely done. So it always shows like some arrows in the instruments then where it can actually do that, to which direction. And here the difference is just that when you do that with BMW or Mercedes, these brands want you that you tip the turning indicator like this. And here, in order to do the lane change, you really have to pull them in completely and not tip them. That is important to know, otherwise you might get confused when you change from brand to brand in that respect. Yeah, but here also, once again, in the tunnel where it's usually quite loud, super silent. And this side a little bit darker as well. Yeah, third outfit here for today, and well, it's nice weather, definitely around 20 degrees Celsius, around 70 degrees Fahrenheit, 22-inch wheels, and the middle battery, 92 kilowatt hours. So here, the 100 kilometers an hour, 60 miles an hour, was 19 kilowatt hours on 1 kilometers, 3.3 miles per kilowatt hour, means a real world range of 480 kilometers or 300 miles for this mid-size battery. If you would take the biggest battery, even 590 kilometers or 370 miles. Then at 120 kilometers an hour, 75 miles an hour, we are at 22.5 kilowatt hours consumption per 1 kilometers or 2.7 miles per kilowatt hour. That would mean a real world range of 410 kilometers or 255 miles with the mid-size battery, and for the biggest battery would be even 500 kilometers or 310 miles. And these are comparable results, similar to what we had with the iX3. The iX3 was a little bit better with the 20-inch wheels in summertime, was a little bit worse with the 22-inch wheels, but that was when it was colder. So I would then suppose in the real conditions with the similar wheels, they come quite close. We have to do another test at 130 kilometers an hour, of course, when we are back in Germany, or maybe drive even a little bit faster. But so far, these are quite promising results. The Mercedes GLC EQ was even a little bit worse in our first tests. Soon we'll do another extensive test of the GLC EQ, and talk more about that. But indeed, these results so far are actually quite good, and I mean, you can get some decent range out of this vehicle, especially then if you would take the biggest battery. So if you really think in long haul driving, and from the whole driving characteristics, this one seems to be somewhat like a compromise between the iX3 and the GLC EQ. It's very interesting, and it drives really much sportier than expected, and much sportier than you would maybe expect from a Volvo SUV at that size. This was the biggest surprise here today. It is extremely silent also, due to this combination between passive and active noise cancellation. For me personally, it's maybe not an ideal thing. I always feel something artificial next to my ears, so you gotta test that before. But it can also be that you just say, like, I enjoy that it's so super silent, but I'm not the biggest fan of it, and I'm not also the biggest fan of the door handles, but at least maybe they are even a little bit better than just the flush door handles, And they have a lot of unique things here in the interior, very nice solutions there, also the good sound system, and overall the driving is actually, the best positive surprise here of today's test. And you really can say that, in this area of the BMW iX3, GLC EQ, Audi Q6 e-tron, this one can easily play along with them, and is also, maybe going ahead in this and field. So definitely many to consider there. The question is, which one should you take? It's of course also a lot about the personal preference, because they're all quite close in some respects, and also in the efficiency here, you know. So we will keep testing for you, definitely also the other ones. And yeah, since we are also, you know, Leah and I, we are also searching in that field here from these electric SUVs in this segment, it's definitely also one for us to consider, and we'll also ask for an offer there. So also interesting to compare different leasing prices, for example. But soon our iX3 versus GLC EQ comparison test is to come, and also with the long-haul road trip test of the GLC EQ. And then also looking forward to your comments. Which one should we compare to the EX60 here from Volvo? Which is like the closest pair do you see? You can already vote for that in the comments, and we'll keep you updated with these pair of vehicles, because yeah, that's really a very hot segment at this moment, and a good result here today already for the Volvo. What do you think about it? Tell me in the comments, and now tune in to more cars in this